From as early as the 1990s, beach erosion has been wreaking havoc in the quaint Creole village of Monkey River.
This cement post marks the boundary of David Linares' property, or what's left of it.
As we've been documenting the changes over the years, white sandy beaches where tourists and residents alike would gather have been washed away. Acres of land that were once populated with homes are now underwater. The village keeps getting smaller, and the once vibrant community is disappearing. Repeating natural disasters over the last 2 decades, including Hurricanes Mitch and Iris, as well as an earthquake, have ravaged the community. Climate change has exacerbated the situation.
The sea level is rising, and it rises based on what we've been able to ascertain around 3 to 4 millimeters per year. And while that sounds very tiny, the rule of thumb is that the relationship between sea level rise and flooding is 1 to 100. So if there's a 1-inch rise in sea level, it floods 100 inches of beach. Because the sea level is rising and the amount of sand getting to the coast is not able to replenish the sand that is being eroded by the wave action, then more and more the erosion increases and it speeds up.
Apart from, we are looking at climate change and sea level rise and all of that, we still believe one of the biggest problems that we're seeing with the erosion here comes from the activities that's happening on the watershed.
Upper river activities, which include sand mining, agricultural farming, and deforestation, have, as News 5 has documented for decades, been identified as the main cause of the erosion happening in Monkey River. Research from as early as 1998 reflect this.
The supply of sediment is being reduced because the water does not have the force to wash down the sediment to the beach. The force of the water is being reduced because of obstruction for irrigation, water-to-water banana farms, citrus farms, mango farms, and water is being obstructed for aquaculture, and also water is being transferred from one watershed to another. This is all creating a cumulative effect on the river and therefore on the beach.
About a decade later, in 2007, Galen University was commissioned by the Protected Areas Conservation Trust to carry out an assessment of the watershed in Monkey River. Dr. Colin Young was among the experts who undertook the comprehensive task. The findings were shocking.
Where we estimated, I believe, if my memory serves me right, that there's over 2,000 feet of land that has been lost. We calculated that millions of gallons were being removed out of the river, going on to the farms, and then the water was being returned to a creek called Black Creek. So that water never returned back into the main channel of the river. There are all of these areas that had these huge pipes that were extracting the water. The second reason along the river was that a large amount of the river sand used in the construction industry was being mined from the river. What mining does, it does 2 things. It widens the river channel because as you pull the material, the channel of the river is getting wider and wider. And it's also getting deeper and deeper.
This has prevented beach building material from getting to the village, and Dr. Young fears that a tropical storm would be perilous. Almost 25 years later, the problem remains unaddressed because, as we found out, the recommended intervention would cost tens of millions of dollars.
Flush the river of the sand by barging it, taking a barge up the river and taking out all the sand, and then use that to rebuild the beach, and then to plant vegetation that would be able to hold the sediments in place. And then at the same time, develop some hard structures off the coast of the village to help with to reduce the force from the wave action.
Since the 1990s, and with little to no resources, residents have been putting their faith in sandbags and makeshift seawalls, but to no avail. There's desperate need for intervention by public and private stakeholders. Mara Muschamp, as president of the Monkey River Watershed Association, is desperate for funding to save the community from being wiped off the map.
First of all, we have to get to the root cause, but that's a long-term thing. So for us, first and foremost, is to try and keep what we have and not lose anymore. So that will require us start doing some sort of coastal protection, mitigation work outside here to address the issue of not losing more than we already lost. And then work on the watershed and work on restoring that so that then that can start putting back those sediments out that will replenish on the beach naturally, because we think it can be done naturally.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.